What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt Taville with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Shelly Finkel. Shelly Finkel is the manager of Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder, the former WBC heavyweight champion of the world, and he had this to say. He says that it's not over yet, okay? The negotiations between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder are still ongoing, okay? And he said this, and this is most important. He said Tyson Fury is still under contract to fight Deontay Wilder for the third time in the rematch clause since it was activated. And if he fights anyone else, he will be sued. Wow. Now, when I read this, and I was thinking like, okay, same old shit, different toilet. Because this really kind of puts you back. This really looks at everything we've heard in the last few months in question, okay? And when any time you hear something that contradicts something else, you always have to get to the bottom of it if you can, you know what I mean? Because you have definite conflict with what Bob Arum, Frank Warren, then Shelly Finkel, Deontay Wilder, then Tyson Fury. All these people are saying different shit. What do we know? We know that Tyson Fury had a fight that was supposed to go down December 5th. And strangely enough, the shit was canceled over money, which it was canceled over money because they didn't have a crowd, which my first thought of that was, okay, well, you're talking about a fighter, Tyson Fury, saying that he doesn't need a crowd to fight. He just wants to fight. That's why he's not fighting Wilder. You know what I'm saying? So why isn't it Tyson Fury being disappointed in his own team for not getting him that fight and blaming it on money? Or is the reason that they're not trying to bring to the forefront is that they're still in negotiations with Deontay Wilder and wants people to think that, hey, maybe that's not valid anymore because it's expired? Well, like I told you guys, we don't know if the contract itself, we don't know what's on it. We don't know when the expiration date is about. And if it did have an expiration date, you had to look at the tell of the time. If this was if this was the year before last, maybe that might have been the case, right? If this was 2019 instead of that other year, right, we would have, that contract probably would have held weight from being expired because of the time frame. But unfortunately, that last year we just got crawled out of had some type of natural stipulations that were at least up for review and consideration to make that expiration date not as valid as one might think. You see what I'm saying? So Bob Arum saying Shelly Finkel didn't look over the contract. Well, if that's the case, why the fuck didn't Tyson Fury fight on December 5th? Is it really because of money? Because Tyson Fury I don't think he really cared about that. I think his objective was to get a fight because he hasn't fought since February and he wanted to be fresh. He didn't give a shit about how fresh Deontay Wilder was. He was worried about himself because he's been training all year because they've changed the damn date 3 times. And he kept telling them to give me a date, and they couldn't get it for him, because they were trying, on both sides, were trying to find a crowd or a place to crowd this fight, and they couldn't. You know what I mean? And we all went through the reasons why. What were the reasons why? Well, December 12th, Errol Spence fought Danny Garcia in Texas. Why didn't the shit go down then? Why would that fight have a crowd and you couldn't house the Deontay Wilder Fury fight? That's how I kind of look at Al Heyman on that. Because Al Heyman knows that, hey, he could have put that fight somewhere. I'm sorry, that wasn't December 12th, was it? No, it was December 5th, I think. Right? December 12th was Joshua Pulev. Why not have it the same night? You know what I mean? Because they could have had that at night and could have had Wilder Fury at the nighttime, prime time here in the US of A. Why didn't they do that then? Again, that could have happened. And then the other dates, they are talking about, well, Fox and They have football conflicts. Well, okay, well, that means you guys weren't willing to go up against football in America or even have that fight anywhere. So it didn't really make sense on why that was the case. So when they're saying, okay, it's expired, we're going to move on, but then you don't have a fight, it makes me question, okay, what the hell is really going on? And Shelly Finkel saying like, hey, Tyson Fury will be sued. Okay, well, Tyson Fury, Team Fury, has to show us that Team Wilder is not talking a bunch of bullshit. Okay, they have to prove that by getting a fight. If that's the case, and vice versa, really. Okay, Shelly Finkel can say, hey, they're not fighting anybody. If they don't fight anyone, okay, how do we believe that Shelly Finkel's telling a lie now? Shelly Finkel might be right on point. Like, he didn't fight because they got that shit, that sit down, that mediation with Team Wilder still. They still have that hang up. We don't know that to be true yet. But you're not doing anything otherwise. You see what I'm saying? So if he would have fought Caballero, I'd have looked at that like, okay, he fought someone, now what? And if you're worried about being sued over a contract, okay, well, obviously the expiration didn't hold weight because of the events that happened last year. Okay, so they may have a pony in the show on that. And him saying, hey, he's still in contract, he can't fight nobody else, that's a bold statement from an opposite manager of somebody that don't manage you to tell you what you're going to do and what your team better not do. Right? And you better not fight anyone else or you're going to be sued. So I don't know if that's necessarily a threat or a fucking promise. They're probably one and the same, but I think the mediation is to stop all that. But at the end of the day, why isn't Tyson Fury fighting? See, since the Caballero fight, you haven't heard Tyson Fury talk about anybody to fight for any reason whatsoever. We just heard about the mediation. Now on Wilder's behalf, Wilder himself said, well, hey, if we can't get the Fury fight, we're going to fight the following guys. Ruiz, White, Helenius, those guys, right? He named those guys out of a hat. But then if the mediation's going on, these guys are still in cahoots and in talks with each other. So my counterpunch reading this is, you can't really call Shelly Finkel a liar until you prove him wrong, until you say something conflicting. But I can tell you what was conflicting is what Bob Arum said, because no corresponding action has been behind it. Okay, what was supposed to go behind it? Tyson Fury should have fought. Because then we would know, okay, well, he ain't giving a shit about Deontay Wilder anyway, because he just fought this one cat, beat the shit out of him, got a check, got paid. He was in a bubble, cool, right? But that didn't happen. And to be honest with you guys, not that I'm sitting here lying, but, to be frank, I don't think that was a good enough excuse. I don't think that was a good enough excuse for not having that Caballero fight. Okay, counterpunch. I don't think that was a good enough excuse, because I'm thinking, you better come with something that holds weight. And Tyson Fury is just wanting a fight. I don't think he, again, cared about the fight purse. So what was the deal with not getting him the fight? Was it really about the money? Because I don't think Tyson Fury cared about the money. So you can't use that as an excuse, unless those guys over there are just that greedy and they're worried about lining their own pockets, and that won't be enough for that particular fighter. But if the fighter's not complaining, why should you complain? Counterpunch. You see what I'm saying? So it's not really adding up. All we know is you had a sit down, a mediation, and when the sit down was revealed, then the fight was off. You see what I'm saying? That's the difference. And it also tells me something about Wilder. Wilder is more concerned about getting that one belt back, and I don't think he ever wanted to unify or any of that shit. Especially, with the opponent that they had in front of him. I don't think he had any intention of fighting Joshua, but I don't think that's the point here. I think the main point is Shelly Finkel saying and telling Tyson Fury with bold emphasis, you ain't fighting anybody. because you're still under contract to fight my fighter. And if you try to fight somebody else, we're going to sue you. That's my counterpunch on that, guys. You guys tell me what you think of Shelly Finkel stating what he is about to put down. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.